Hey everybody, John Burroughs, retired US Air Force and experiencer at Rendlesham Forest, suggests that I humbly try and answer some of your questions. I don't have all the answers, but I do know that YouTube isn't a very good place to discuss things. So I thought I would just read out some of your questions and try and give you proper answers rather than me just saying interesting. So today, let's dive into your questions about the Rendlesham Forest incident.
These things are real. They're here. This is happening now.
There has been and is an existing presence. You don't have to go anywhere.
You can find it here.
Yeah.
They got immediately merged into UFOs, and I'm not sure what UFOs are, but these aren't spacecraft. These aren't extraterrestrial.
Our night that we went out there, they were blasting the phenomenon with EM frequencies. Because those blue lights that we saw, plasma's being targeted by lasers.
High-power radars and ionospheric heaters are capable of making atmospheric plasmas. They may be swept across the sky in regular or intelligent patterns.
We have now released Land Quick Strike. Repeat, we have now released Land Quick Strike.
Starting with Test Rabbit. Hey, Test Rabbit. Interesting. You're taking the P. You mentioned the God's helmet, which I'm familiar with. Is that related to Havana syndrome? Okay, let's just unpick this. So the human body is affected by electromagnetic frequencies. I mean, we are just energy. And sure enough, the Havana syndrome is probably a microwave weapon used by somebody who doesn't like US embassies, and probably British embassies as well, shooting frequencies from a car across the road into embassies, making people feel upset. But the God helmet is a different idea. The military also knows that frequencies can affect us, and we also produce frequencies. Is there a way of brain reading a pilot's thoughts to actually help him or her focus on their task? And the God helmet has sensors all over your head and can actually show you things on the radar, and you can think of how to target something or fly the plane. Hopefully you still use controls. And Douglas Hughes 2331. Hi, Douglas. If any government has alien tech, they will not acknowledge it or let anyone know it exists. I completely agree. I mean, the whole thing of the word disclosure drives me bonkers. I think we need confirmation independently of governments. I think if there is any advanced or even alien or whatever tech governments and militaries have, why would they share it with us? They'd keep it secret. And this is a good question from Greg Hardman, 5064. He says, the comments regarding ball lightning and microwaves are utter BS. No, they're not, but I see where you're going. James Warrow really does research stuff, and we don't say stuff unless we have backup documents to actually prove it. Ball lightning is very interesting. It is a contained plasma field. It's a ball because it's in our atmosphere, and it has very, very much been studied. Now, there's a whole history of trying to understand how ball lightning propagates and could it be weaponized. So no, ball lightning has been experimented with, and its association with microwaves is just something that James Warrow found in one paper. And this one's from Gary 7 and ISIS in 1968. Great name, Gary. If Rendlesham Forest was something to do with our technology, then obviously it came to nothing. Really? Rendlesham Forest was just an early start. What we have today in 2024 is just purely amazing. Oh, I'm getting lots of incoming on my watch. My watch is dinging. my wife's out of town and she's flying back and I need to go and meet her. So let's go on with this. No, technology, the weaponization of physics is so important. Ever since the Manhattan Project, Pandora's box was opened and the genie of physics has never gone back. We have advanced physics today that you and I don't know about. I would like to find out. Jonathan Swigert, and this is really diving into a question that a lot of you have asked. And Jonathan asks, but wasn't there a triangular craft? Well, Jim Penstone saw a triangular craft, and it's really, really important to know that every witness saw something different. John saw like an eye in the sky, like a light and a force field that actually came around him. Deputy Base Commander Holt saw flashing lights in the sky. And, Jim Penstone thinks he saw a craft. All are true. The effects of these type of frequencies actually, as I said earlier, with the God helmet, mess with our brain. I don't in any way say what Jim Penstone saw is not true. It's his reality. But the triangular craft has an issue and a problem. It's what a lot of UFO people want to hear. It's a flying saucer with 3 little legs and covered in icons and things. And the problem is with that is it's one person's perception of reality. Other people saw other things, so we can't ignore them. But here's the issue. As soon as it's a triangular craft, probably alien, that landed in the forest, it closes the case. What we're looking at is, yeah, sure. Was there a craft? Was there a device? Well, how does it work? What's the nature of what they saw? The frequencies? And very likely, is there a man-made connection? So in every unidentified sighting, there are 3 possibilities. One, you're just misinterpreting what you're seeing and you're not understanding it, and there's a prosaic, easy explanation. 2, it's man-made and it's a secret thing. And 3rd, it's genuine alien, non-human technology. But you really have to eliminate the first 2 before you jump to the conclusion that it's aliens. It's very appealing, but it slams the door on looking at, actually, what were they really doing? And Colin Dickinson follows up the whole triangular craft and the Jim Penstone thing is, what about the symbols seen on the craft? Again, one person's reality. Let's look at the big picture, folks. Sure, Jim Penstone saw symbols. Sure, he definitely saw in his reality a craft. John Burroughs didn't. Other people didn't. There was something there. Was it solid? I don't know. We definitely know from John Burroughs' injuries, and that's the most important evidence for me, that he was affected by high levels of plasma and some electromagnetic frequencies of extreme power. Was it non-human intelligence? Was it human? Was it a force of nature? That's what we're asking. And here's a question for a regular viewer and who says really smart things. Johnny71, say hi, Johnny. Something you guys may not know is that the lighthouse was demolished. This is the Orford Ness Lighthouse, the most powerful and brightest beam in eastern England. And a local BBC crew went to film it while it was being demolished and were told that they couldn't go inside it or even film it. It's funny that you said that, because I actually heard from the BBC film crew. I used to work in Norwich, which was the headquarters of BBC Eastern Regions, or Look East, and they were covering, the Orford Ness Lighthouse story. And there's definitely a mystery going on here. I heard the same thing about restricted access to the lighthouse being demolished. It was something that somebody didn't want them to film. A rich gentleman in the Suffolk area wanted to move the whole lighthouse as a monument to its wonderful history of saving mariners, and was told, well, you could have the top bit. The actual body of the building, many floors with different rooms inside it, and a tall structure on a very flat shingle beach, was we know. used by Robert Watson Watt. It was used in World War II. The Ministry of Defence almost definitely used the Trinity House lighthouse and the Black Beacon nearby as tall structures on the Orford Ness to actually do things. Here's a funny story and an insight into British way of thinking. After the Rendlesham Forest incident, there was a lot of misinformation. SAS raids, a prank, or it was just a lighthouse. Well, it was just a lighthouse is somebody being economical with the truth, because in fact, it was partially the lighthouse, but not a flashing beacon. The lighthouse probably contained physics experiments that they were using. Directed energy weapons, non-nuclear EMP. I don't know. We're still getting to the bottom of what exactly the SDI physics that was being paid for by the US was actually being developed by people at Bawdsey, tested at Orford, powered by Sizewell A, and very much built and developed at Martlesham Heath at Adastral Park. That's a lot to take in, folks. Mickman240 says, all of this is mere speculation. Why? It's not mere speculation, Mick. It's a lot of research. And he says, you're linking the experimental Martlesham Heath with Rendlesham Forest. What's all that about? Well, it is linked. Stanford Research, or SRI, had an office, a facility at Adastral Park, which is the Martlesham Heath British Telecom research station that had other contractors in the park. And SRI were definitely working with Brits on advanced physics. So why shouldn't they be testing it in Rendlesham Forest, in Orford Ness at Bawdsey? Martlesham Heath had a power supply of unlimited amount from government-built Sizewell A nuclear power station. So did US Air Force Bentwaters Airport. They didn't need it. And so did, of course, Orford Ness and down to Bawdsey. It's Britain experimenting and exporting advanced physics. Alan Keeling, 2946, makes a very good point. John Burroughs definitely deserves better answers, considering what he's been through. I completely agree. John Burroughs has been on this quest, for 44 years now. And, he was even denied by the VA that he was in the Air Force, or by the Department of Defense, who told the VA. So, no, he's been messed around, rightly, royally messed around by a lot of people. And, that's why I play a very humble role in helping John Burroughs, and so does James Warrow in his wonderful research, in trying to find answers for John. We want to know what actually happened there. And we want some closure for John Burroughs, who experienced something very odd that injured him at Rendlesham Forest. Tim Golby. Hi, Tim Golby, 8556. Why do people have numbers after their names? I don't know. Is Rendlesham Forest related to the Skinwalker Ranch phenomenon? That's a very condensed way of asking a very smart question. Thank you. Possibly. Skinwalker Ranch is super famous because of the TV program, but there's lots of places throughout the world that have weird apparitions, Lourdes, Rendlesham, lots of places. And so, yeah, there is possibility that stuff has gone on in Suffolk which could be related to what actually happened. John Burroughs is asking this question to me and James. Is there a link between the history of phenomenon in Suffolk and the physics that was definitely going on at the time in the area? I mean, we want answers. So good question. Anne Droid, hi Anne, says as a statement, what if UAPs and UFOs are all man-made? Yeah, I think some are. I mean, as I've said many times, the Condon report says 80% are just misidentified, leaving 20% that we know what they are, but we can't tell you because they're man-made and secret. So there's a whole bunch of secret stuff out there. And if I've got a focus for you on this channel, I mean, I don't want to just debunk and easily solve the misidentified ones. I leave that to other very smart people who can tell you it was Ryanair Flight 123. I mean, it's a bit boring. And I would love to have evidence of genuine extraterrestrial craft. I think there's non-human intelligence related to a lot of the things that we see. But that leaves this massive 20% of secret stuff, which I am fiercely digging into for you. Any day, a goat or a Men in Black is going to crash my humble watermill here in France. But you know what? I mean, I want to know the history of physics and how it relates to the weaponization of UAP. And so do you, so stay tuned. So that's just a few of your questions. Keep them coming. I'm sorry that on YouTube it's difficult to do long, lengthy replies. Patreon, which is free, by the way, you have a direct contact with me and you can ask me personal questions. I get them in my iPad, often lying in bed with a coffee, and I'll just reply to you with great detail. Join Patreon today. It's free and cuts through all the commercial censorship of YouTube, who only promote films or light subjects that they make loads of money from, not UFOs. So keep it real, people, and most of all, remember, the truth is out there.